revealed the book at a certain time, at a certain place, but it transcends the time and place when and where it was revealed. So many centuries after its revelation, we still have the same text, but our own situation is considerably different from the time and place and the people who were the first recipient of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I will explain what is meant by thematic study of the Quran and why is it necessary. What are the benefits of such a study? How would it be done? Has it been done before? And what are the resources for such a study? So 5 things. What is meant by thematic study of the Quran and why is it necessary together? Second, what are the benefits of such a study? Third, how would it be done? Fourth, has it been done before? And finally, what are the resources for such a study? As you know, the Quran presents 2 different kinds of challenges to those who study it because of the 2 different kinds of people who approach the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one kind of people are the people who do not believe that this is a revealed text. And the others, those who believe this is a revealed text. This is a fundamental distinction between the 2 readers of the Quran, and both are present, both have been present since its revelation. And they will be present until the end of time, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says in Surah Al-Isra, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ حِجَابًا مَسْتُورًا. Ayah number 45. When the Quran is recited, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a barrier, hijab mastura, which is a veil, a hidden veil upon those who do not believe in the akhirah, which is a fundamental condition of belief, those who do not believe in the akhirah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Muhammad, ayah 24, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالَهَا. Do they not reflect on the Quran, or are there locks on their hearts? This barrier, this lock and this hijab, this veil that comes on the hearts of the disbelievers does not allow them to receive the message of the Quran. We are not dealing with those people, so I won't go into details of what happens in the case of those who try to study the Quran without believing that this is a revealed text. Most of the Quranic studies in the Western academic circles are based on the assumption that this is, na'uzubillah, a text that was manufactured by a human being. Or more serious scholars, they would say, well, we don't know where it came from, but we are not even dealing with that. We'll just deal with the text. They cannot deal with the text without deciding, because Quran insists to take a position. So we are not dealing with those people, but the people who believe, like us, what is it that we find in the text? Ultimately, we are dealing with text in a human language. Arabic was a human language before the Quran was revealed. Arabic has been a human language after its revelation. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do to the language in which the Quran has been revealed? This is a very fundamental aspect for us to really understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when the Quran was revealed in a language that was spoken by human beings on this earth, what happened to that language? All languages consists of words consist of letters. In Arabic, we have a fundamental structure of the language which is based on the roots. triliteral, or in some cases there are 4 letters to the root. The meaning of a word remains perpetually connected to the root of the word. So every single word in the Arabic language is derived from a known root, and the root has a meaning. Root has an inherent meaning. What happened in the revelation, in the process of revelation, was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the content of the meanings out of the existing human usage. This is a very important aspect of the language of Quran to understand, and without it we cannot understand the Quran. The words were there, their meanings were there, but in most cases the words were emptied out of their content and new content was poured into the same roots. This transformation was so fundamental to the Arabic language, it has never happened to any other language in human history, that unless we understand this transformation, we cannot understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A prime example is the word Allah itself. The mushriks, the Quraysh, the Arabs used the word Allah before the revelation of the Quran, and they had a concept of attached to this word Allah. What was their concept? The concept was, He is the supreme God among a whole host of other gods. Allah is there, but He is just one, although He's supreme, but He is just one God out of many other gods. This was the actual content of the word Allah. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He took that content out from the word Allah. The word remained, but its usage changed completely. Now, the Quranic word Allah is different from the word that was used before. And amazingly, we will inshallah deal with this theme in the subsequent classes as well. Similar things happened when the word Allah was translated into Persian, for example, or into Urdu. It hasn't happened with English yet. When we say God, people may have all kinds of concepts associated with God, capital G or lowercase g. They have their own concept. But when it went to Persian, when Muslims went to Persian, they had the word Khuda before that. But nobody uses Khuda in the same sense as they used before Islam. Just as nobody uses Allah now in Arabic language, meaning that this is just one God out of many gods. It has been totally transformed. Same thing happened with many other words. Another example is Kareem. The Arabs had a word called Kareem. A person who was generous, who was noble, was called Kareem. But their understanding of the nobility and generosity of this person was the person who would be the leader of a tribe or a poet or somebody rich who would get drunk, and in that state he would say, oh, I give this land to you and I give this herd of sheep to you. He's just generous. He is just giving, and he was called Kareem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept the word Kareem, but He took the content out, and what do we have now? These are the people وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَىٰ حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَعَسِيرًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. These are the people who are generous, who give, but they are giving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not because they are drunk and not because they are just satisfying their ego. The word remained Kareem, but its meaning changed, its content changed. So in order to understand the vocabulary of the Quran, in order to understand the ayahs where these words appear, we need to have a conceptual background of the text of the Quran, of the Arabic language itself, and that is what we get through a thematic study of the Quran. Now we all know that the Quran was revealed, and this is the second aspect. Sometimes when we read the translation or even the original Arabic, we read something but it doesn't mean that. For instance, we all know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. He says, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakatin inna kunna munzirin. And then in Surah Baqarah we have Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fi al-Qur'an hudan lin-nasi wa bayyinatin min al-huda wal-furqan. All of these verses tell us that the Qur'an was revealed either on a given night or in the month of Ramadan. And we all know that the Qur'an wasn't revealed in one night. It came in 23 years, slowly and in sequence. Whereas if you just read this ayah and you don't know, somebody doesn't know the semantics of it, the thematic background, they are going to be misunderstanding the text of the Quran. Another benefit is that sometimes we don't even cannot access the ayah without knowing the theme of the text. A classic example is, we all know that when, and this is the background theme, we all know that when the day of Qiyamah comes, what's going to happen to the earth and the sky. إذا الشمس كورت وإذا النجوم قدرت وإذا الجبال سجرت وإذا الإشار عطرت. The whole cosmos is going to be ruptured. There is not going to be any sky left. There is not going to be السماء انفطرت وإذا الكواكب انتصرت. Everything is going to be destroyed. Right? This is very clear. But then we come to an ayah in Surah Hud, telling us what's going to happen to all humanity. يَوْمَ يَأْتِ لَا تَكَلَّمُ نَفْسٌ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ فَمِنْهُمْ شَقِيٌّ وَسَعِيدٌ. Every single human being, all humanity is going to be divided into two groups. And we hope we'll be among the Sa'id, those who will be successful and those who will be shaqi. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ شَقُوا فَفِي النَّارِ لَهُمْ فِيهَا زَفِيرٌ وَشَهِيقٌ. Those who will be nar, in the fire, خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا مَا دَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ رَبُّكَ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. They are going to be in the fire as long as the samawat and the earth remain. This is an ayah in the Quran, in Surah Hud. They will be in fire as long as the skies and the earth remain. But we have already said there is no sky and there is no earth. Where is the sky and earth coming from? We need to have an understanding of the overall concept of the Quran, because elsewhere Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ تَبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ وَالْغَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ. That there will be a day when this earth will be changed with another earth, and the sky likewise. Another example is, we are here on this earth because what happened to Adam alayhi salam in Jannah. We all know the story. But if we are reading the text of the Quran in Arabic or in translation, the ayah that says that فَأَذَلَّهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ عَنْهَا فَأَخْرَجَهُمَا مِمَّا كَانَ فِيهِ وَقُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ. The verb used here, قُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا, is a plural. Because in Arabic we have the singular, the dual and the plural. For one person it's just singular, for two people it's dual, and for more than two it's always the plural form, that's even if it's just three. We all know that in Jannah, when this happened, there were only two human beings, Adam alayhi salam and Hawa. Hawa is not named in the Quran, but we know from the tradition that. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the word ihbitu, plural? Elsewhere it says, Kul nahbitu minha jami'an. All of you get out of here. How do we understand ayahs of where we have this kind of grammatical structure that cannot be understood if we don't know that in the case of Adam alayhi salam, the entire zurriya, the entire progeny of Adam alayhi salam is being addressed. All of you means not just two people in specific people, but jins. It's ism al-jins. This is the genus. So in some cases we cannot understand the intent of the verse. In some cases there is danger for misunderstanding what is being said. And in all cases we gain enormous amount of richness of our understanding if we have this approach to the study of the Quran. If we are serious. Most people would just read it and say, okay, we came out of Jannah, but if you don't if we don't pay attention, so, and this is, none of this is new. This is very important. There is this fashion now, something new is better. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected His religion, and the generations who came before us, they were giants. They were really scholars of extraordinary stature. We just don't know them, we just don't have it, but everything has been explained in the sources. So we are not reinventing anything. We don't even have the qualifications to do that. Nobody has the qualifications like the Sahaba did. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did to their hearts is just extraordinary. Like nobody can understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better than Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody can understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better than who were with him, directly guided by him. We are nothing. We don't have the resources, the spiritual resources that they had. There is one more aspect of the Quran that is extremely important in terms of proper understanding of the meaning, and sometimes because the Quran has its own structure, it doesn't follow any existing structure. And I will just give one more example. In the case of Isa alayhi salam, we all know that our belief is that he was not crucified. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him. إِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَجَاعِلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَأَحْكُمُ بَيْنَكُمْ فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ فِيهِ تَخْتَلِفُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse that to Isa alayhi salam, Inni mutawaffika wa rafiuka ilayya wa mutahhiruka. I will mutawaffika, I will take you. Now this word has been used by some misguided people to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused Isa alayhi salam to die. And they say he died naturally in Kashmir or somewhere else, and he's not coming back. And this is their way of inserting their own person's prophethood into the chain, because if Isa alayhi salam is not coming, then somebody else can be the Mahdi. And they prove it from this verse. إِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ, that I'm going to take you. Mutawaffika, now they say the meaning of mutawaffika is I'm going to cause you to die. And rafiuka, and then I will raise you, and then wa ilayya wa mutahhiruka. Now centuries before this, our scholars said there is a sequential reversal in this ayah. Sequential reversal is a technique that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in the Quran, not only in this verse, but in many verses. Sequential reversal is called al-taqdeem wa ta'khir, meaning in reality what is going to happen in sequentially, what's going to happen later is mentioned before. This is something known to our scholars, it has been known for centuries. And they say there are reasons for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reversing the sequence of events in the way He mentions it. Inni mutawaffika is to give the grand good news to Isa alayhi salam before saying rafiuka. The taqdeem and ta'khir, the reversal of sequence here, is to fortify the heart of Isa alayhi salam to saying that you are actually coming to me. This is nothing. What's happening right now is absolutely of no consequence. The sustenance, the solace, the heart becomes so satisfied that I'm going to meet my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are these subtle aspects of the Quran that we can only have if we have this understanding of the text beyond the immediate ayah that we are reading. And that can happen through many ways, and thematic study of the Quran is just one fundamental way of doing it. Now, again, as I said, this is not something that we are starting from nothing. It has been done by great scholars before us, and we are just latching on to that scholarship. We are just tapping that ocean of fresh reservoir that has been flowing for centuries. We're just tapping a little bit into it. Imam al-Ghazali, towards the end of his life, rahimahullah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercies on him, after a lifetime of reflecting on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wrote this wonderful book, a small book called Jawahir al-Qur'an, the jewels of the Qur'an. And he begins that book by saying the Sirrul Qur'an, the most secret aspect of the Qur'an. وَلَبَابُهُ الْأَصْفَى, and its innermost, purest pith, and its ultimate aim. وَمَقْصَدُهُ الْأَقْصَى, its ultimate aim is imitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his slaves. دعوة العباد إلى الجبار العالى رب الآخرة والأولى خالق السماوات الأولى والأرضين السفلى وما بينهما الدسم. He says that the secret of the Quran, its purest truth and its ultimate aim is calling people to Allah, the most powerful, the Lord of this world and the hereafter, the creator of the heavens above and the layers of earth below, and whatever is in between them, and whatever is under the moist subsoil. He says that for this reason, the entirety of the Quran consists of 6 types. These are the 6 themes that he identifies. The first, and he says the 3 of them are fundamental, and the 3 follow them. The 3 fundamental themes that he identifies is the tarif, is the tarif al-madu'a ilay, the definition of the one who is calling, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. He says that who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has disclosed him in the book that is with us. This is the fundamental, the most fundamental theme of the Quran. The second of the 3 fundamentals is the straight path. وَتَعْرِيفُ الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ الَّذِي تَجِبْ مُلَازِمَتِهِ فِي سُلُوكِ إِلَيْهِ. The straight path to which we need to adhere to reach him. So the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an invitation to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to meet him in the hereafter. The second of the themes is the straight path, the path upon which we need to travel to reach him. And the third is the definition of the conditions of those who actually reach him. وَتَعْرِيفِ الْحَالِ عِنْدَ الْوَصُولِ إِلَيْهِ. And the 3 themes which follow from this are the state of those who answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his delicate dealings with them. So this is the Risala. I have said that in the write-up, I have said that we have the 3 fundamental themes are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Risala and the Ma'ad, the return. So Risala is Imam Ghazali's the straight path, because message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that tells us what is the path that we need to travel to reach him. And all the prophets who came, La nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusulin, we don't distinguish between them at the level of prophethood. They are all our messengers, from Adam alayhi salam to the Prophet alayhi salam. And the Ma'ad is the return. What is going to be the state of those who respond to the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who respond to the invitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who reject it? Now, this scheme is not just specific to Imam Ghazali. Several other scholars have used the same with certain variations. And when there are variations, this is the most basic structure, the most fundamental structure of the Quran for its themes is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Tawheed, Risala, which is messengerhood, and the Ma'ad, which is the hereafter. There are other scholars, for example, Razi says that وَالْمَقْصُودُ مِنْ قُرْآنِ التَّقْرِيرَ أَمُورُ أَرْبَعَ. He says there are 4 aspects of the Quran. The first is ilahiyat, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Tawheed. Second is Ma'ad and Nabuwa. And then he adds the 4th one, وَإِثْبَاتُ الْقَضَى وَالْقَدْرِ, the attestation of the divine decree. Now we all know that attestation of the divine decree is one of the 6 pillars or foundations of Iman. So he specifies one extra, but if we look at the grand scheme that Imam Ghazali has of the 3, this is already included in the belief system. Likewise, Shah Waliullah he included 5. He says al-bab al-awwal fil ulum al-khamsah allati baynaha al-Qur'an al-azim. He says that there are 5 branches of knowledge that the Quran deals with, and in this case he adds the ahkam, the rulings. But rulings are then a subset of Risala, because we know the rulings because of the messenger. All the rulings are from either the Sunnah or the Quran. So everything actually goes back to those 3 fundamentals. Now the benefits of studying the Quran thematically include, number 1, as I said, the proper understanding of the text that we are reading. Sometimes we cannot understand the text just by looking at the ayah itself, unless we have the whole theme of the Quran with us. And it's very easy to gain that overall structure because it's part of our belief system. Unfortunately, we are so separated from the tradition that we sometimes don't have that. Number 2 is the enrichment. What we receive from a given ayah, from a given surah, with the understanding of the themes of the Quran is enormously richer than without it. It just deepens our understanding of the text, because when we read the Quran, we are reading one ayah at a time. And unless we have the entirety of the context of what is being said in the form of the theme, the enrichment is not there. We are just dealing with one ayah. And finally, then the last thing is that it builds an everlasting relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is a process of internalization of the message of the Quran. Thematic study of the Quran is not something that we can gain by reading a book or 2 or attending a class or 2, but what happens is like planting a tree, planting something within our own beings, nurturing it day after day after day, reflecting it, and just starts to blossom. And the fragrance and the beauty of it is just unbelievable. So this introduction is basically just to give us what will be covered. The last thing I want to say today is how would it be covered? I'm going to, inshallah, put the themes of the Quran that will be covered on the website, on the class website. You have the link already in that email. How would it be covered would be the following. Inshallah, we will begin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala next Sunday, the first theme. And then, because this theme is never ending, who are we to say anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but yet this is a fundamental theme of the Quran. What has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala disclosed about Himself in His book? Which means going into certain aspect of, we cannot reflect on the Zat, we cannot reflect on the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because laysa kamithlihi shay, there is nothing like Him. We have no idea of His Zat, but in our tradition we have His afal, what He does, and His asma al-husna, His beautiful names. So there are ways to reflect and deepen our understanding. I don't know how many classes would it take at this point. And then we will do the Risala and prophethood in general and the Prophet as well. And after that we will inshallah go alphabetically, and I will have all the themes on the class website. One more time, there is nothing that I am saying from myself. I don't have the qualification, no one has the qualification to speak on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How would it be done is a summary, is a titration, it's a concentration, it's a way of tapping into the tafsir tradition, into the linguistic tradition, into the books of Aqidah, depending on the theme we will be dealing with. And there are other areas, other branches we will be tapping into. For example, the theme of beauty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything is always going to be tied to the text of the Qur'an, because, for example, on the theme of beauty, you can say 1001 things, but we are not dealing with anything extra Quranic. What does the Qur'an tell us about husn, jamal? So we will always be dealing with the text of the Qur'an. That way there will be a focus on the Qur'an itself, and we are always going to be referring back to the ayahs of the Qur'an. So as an example of this theme of beauty, what are the words used in the Qur'an for beauty? How many times are they used? In which context? What are the levels of the beauty? Beauty of this world, the beauty of the hereafter, beauty of the Qur'an, beauty of the Prophet ﷺ, beauty of the believers. All of these themes are present, sub-themes are present in the theme of beauty. So when we deal with one theme, there will be sub-themes within that theme. And that's how we enrich our concepts of the Qur'an, inshallah. Are there any questions?
Regarding themes of the Quran, from Imam Ghazali, you mentioned there are 6 themes. Out of these 3 themes you mentioned, there are 3 more subcategories. You mentioned, what are those?
So he said that the 3 fundamental themes are Tawheed, Risala, and Ma'ad, and then there are 3 sub-themes, and they follow the first. The first sub-theme is the state, the hal of those who respond to the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the theme is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran is an invitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sub-theme and the 3 subcategories is the state of those who respond to the call. And he says there are 2 kinds of these people. This will be the 5th. Those who deny the invitation, those who reject the invitation, what happens to them? It unveils their disgrace and ignorance in disputing the truth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions individuals, nations, entirety of people who have rejected His invitation, meaning the invitation given through the prophets. And the last and the final subdivision is the stages of the path and the manner of taking provisions and preparing for it. This is extremely important, because remember he said the 3rd theme is the Ma'ad, in the hereafter. And this is connected with that. So 3 sub-themes, one more time, is the hal of those who answer in positive, the second is the hal of those who deny, and finally the 6th would be the stages of the path. Any other question?
Person, you said, and we all believe that Allah is all wise and knowing. And so Allah used sequence reversal in Quran. As we believe that Allah is wise and knowing, He knew that people would use it to modify the whole thing. So what's the wisdom behind it?
Yes, yes. Not only just this is one of hundreds of specific aspects of the Quran which have been identified in our tradition. Al-Taqdeem wa Ta'khir is just one of those things. And that is why the Quran is very simple, very easy, and Quran is the most difficult book in the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it so simple that anyone whose heart is open knows the fundamentals. Like millions of people have come on this earth who were illiterate, who had no idea of what they are reading. Even now there are millions of people who don't know what they are reading when they are reading the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But their hearts are open and they know that they have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are here in this dunya for a certain amount of time. They are going to die. There will be a day of judgment and there is a hereafter. This is such a fundamental, simple message that the hearts which are open receive it without knowing what they are reading. Now, at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the book so difficult that unless people spend their lifetime doing it. And there is a saying from Sayyidina Ali who said that the scholars would never get tired of it. They will never get tired of it. It's a spring that will never end. It's an ocean that has no depth in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a certain amount of freedom to human beings to distort or to accept the message that He has given. And He has left these loopholes, so to speak, for them to use them if they want to use them. So in the Quran, for example, we have many miracles mentioned in the Quran, which human intellect cannot understand. But the condition Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said is, yu'minuna bil ghaib. Those who believe in the ghaib. Now ghaib is translated as unseen, which is inadequate translation because we don't see many other things as well. But ghaib is not unseen. We don't see beauty, for example. We don't see atoms. We don't see many others. Ghaib is something that is not even perceivable by the human condition. It's something beyond perception, right? In order to test humankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent this book with certain aspects which we cannot even perceive, and yet He asks us to believe in them. Likewise, these are called rhetoric devices. These are specific to the Quran, but they are also present in every language. Every writer who writes something uses certain techniques. The aim of the Quran is actually to transform the hearts. And when there are things like this, Al-Taqdeem wa Ta'khir, what it does is it attacks the heart of a thinking human being and says, wait a minute, what's happening here? I'm reading something that I don't understand. I need to think about it. So there are many other techniques used in the Quran. This is one of them. So Allah's wisdom is in instilling this urge in the human being. This is one of the wisdoms in this particular aspect. To pause and say, oh, wait a minute. This person is taking it in this direction. I am understanding in this sequential reversal technique because I have read this in Zamakhshari, who wrote this several centuries ago, before this person used it. Who is right, who is wrong? Am I right? And if I'm right, why am I right? If this person comes and talks to me and says, no, you are wrong because your Quran is saying this, do I have the resources? Have I understood it? for myself. Am I able to convince him that no, this is why this is? So there is this human condition. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says many times, if He wanted, He could have made the whole human beings follow Him. But that's not the condition in which we are. We have been given a certain limited freedom. And in order to use our resources according to what Allah has given us, He has opened these paths of scholarship on the book, which have been there. It's like a vast ocean. Any other question?
There are some in the chat.
Yes, please. Yes. Chat has 3 questions. What should we do? So the first question is, what should we do to prepare ourselves best for your classes to benefit the most from this short time? Should we be reading the appropriate IEQ section before each week? Would you recommend reading Imam Ghazali's Rahmullah's Jewels of the Qur'an for this session? MashaAllah. So there would be, there would be themes for which we already have articles online on IEQ website. That would be beneficial. But because we have received lots of feedback saying that these articles are not accessible, so basically we will be unpacking and sometimes adding to those themes which are already on the IEQ website. Reading Jawahir al-Qur'an is extremely beneficial, but for this particular thematic study of the Qur'an, the entire book is not needed, but the fundamental aspects, especially his chapters on Surah Al-Fatiha, for example, how Surah Fatiha, Imam Ghazali says, the entirety of the knowledge, all ulum are in Surah Fatiha. This is an amazing statement in itself. The entirety of knowledge is in Surah Fatiha. And this is so, and if you read that chapter, it will be very beneficial, although it would still require unpacking. Just like he says that Surah Al-Ikhlas is 1/3 of, he doesn't say this is either a hadith or a saying of the companions, of a companion is disputed. But 1/3 of the Quran is Surah Al-Ikhlas. What does it mean? When we come across such hadiths or such statements, we tend to take it as an invitation to recite that particular surah. But these statements are not empty of content. And in this particular case, because Surah Al-Ikhlas deals with absolute oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Tawheed, and according to Imam Ghazali, Tawheed is one of the 3 fundamentals of the Quran, therefore 1/3 of the Quran is in Surah Al-Ikhlas. So if there are no other questions, inshallah, we meet and we'll try to upload the session for those who could not attend. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا الله أنت حليم كريم عظيم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين آمين يا الله أنت حليم كريم عظيم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم اللهم افتح لنا أبواب رحمتك يا كريم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.